And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope, despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
The star, Rachel Zegler, is unbelievably charmless in public.
In a stunning turn of events that has left both fans and industry insiders speechless, Disney has quietly begun pulling its live-action Snow White remake from shelves and movie screens across the United States, signaling a level of damage control rarely seen from the entertainment giant. This unprecedented move follows months of backlash and critical panning, leading many to believe Disney is attempting to erase the project from memory entirely, as if the billion-dollar production never existed. Analysts suggest this could be one of the costliest creative failures in Disney's modern history, with billions potentially lost between production, marketing, and merchandising investments, forcing the studio to rethink its entire strategy surrounding live-action remakes and so-called woke reboots. While Disney remains tight-lipped on the reasoning behind the decision, the implications are clear. Snow White's collapse has not only damaged the brand, but has also sparked wider conversations about the direction the company is heading under its current leadership. This level of quiet retraction, avoiding any formal announcement or acknowledgement, speaks volumes about the severity of the failure. In an era where even the biggest box office bombs still find second lives on streaming platforms or home video sales, the decision to completely yank Snow White from distribution sets a new standard for Hollywood flops. Meanwhile, across the country, theater owners bound by contractual obligations to keep Snow White on a certain number of screens have found themselves in open revolt. Reports surfaced early on that attendance was dismal, even for prime weekend showings, and these numbers only worsened as weeks went by. Some theater owners took matters into their own hands, pulling the film prematurely and replacing it with any alternative content they could find, often swapping in older films or local independent releases that performed better than Disney's would-be blockbuster. A viral video captured the stark reality inside one theater, an empty screening room with just 2 attendees present, panning slowly across rows of vacant seats. The footage spread like wildfire across social media platforms, turning what should have been a triumphant box office debut into a global punchline. Theaters, faced with the humiliation of screening a film that audiences were actively avoiding, pleaded with Disney executives for permission to terminate the contracted showings early, citing financial losses and public embarrassment as their primary concerns. Despite these pleas, many chose to break contracts rather than continue hemorrhaging revenue on empty screenings, further underlining the scale of the disaster. The backlash wasn't confined to U.S. borders. International markets, typically seen as a financial safety net for Hollywood releases, turned their backs on Snow White as well. The most extreme example came from Lebanon, where government authorities issued a full ban on the film, not only removing it from theaters, but preventing any form of distribution within the country. This bold stance reflected broader frustrations over the film's messaging, which critics in multiple regions labeled as culturally insensitive and politically driven. The ban wasn't simply about low ticket sales, it was an outright rejection of the film's creative direction and promotional messaging, signaling deep fractures between Disney's corporate vision and the values of international audiences. While bans of Western media are not entirely uncommon in certain markets, the swiftness and totality of Lebanon's decision caught many off guard, raising red flags within Disney's global distribution team about the viability of exporting future reboots abroad. The international fallout added another layer of humiliation, painting a picture of worldwide disapproval that no amount of marketing spin could erase. Adding insult to injury, even the film's merchandising strategy fell flat on its face, a shocking outcome for a Disney production that typically leans heavily on consumer products to recover losses from underperforming films. From Snow White dolls and apparel to mugs and collector items, shelves remained full months after the movie's release, despite limited stock shipments designed to artificially drive demand. Retailers, expecting the usual Disney craze that accompanies princess-branded merchandise, found themselves stuck with inventory they couldn't move. Clearance bins filled with unsold toys and t-shirts became a common sight at major outlets like Target and Walmart, where even heavily discounted prices failed to spark interest. Industry analysts have noted that Disney's inability to generate excitement around its product lines is a dire signal, not just for Snow White, but for the viability of its entire live-action strategy moving forward. Merchandising failures of this magnitude are rare in the Disney ecosystem, where even the weakest performing films have historically managed to break even through product sales, a fact that makes Snow White's downfall all the more unprecedented. At the center of this storm is Rachel Zegler, the young star whose portrayal of Snow White has become a lightning rod for criticism and public ridicule. Initially cast as a bold choice meant to redefine the iconic role for a new generation, Zegler's performance, combined with her outspoken interviews and social media presence, appears to have backfired spectacularly. The actress has faced months of relentless scrutiny, with critics accusing her of being dismissive toward fans of the original story and of injecting political commentary into what many saw as a beloved, timeless fairy tale. As the film continued to flounder, Zegler's attempts at damage control only seemed to pour fuel on the fire. Emotional live streams, tearful Instagram posts, and defensive press appearances painted the portrait of a young actress collapsing under the weight of public pressure, as her once promising career now hangs in the balance. Hollywood insiders report that Zegler is struggling to regain footing, with some suggesting that the Snow White debacle may leave a permanent stain on her professional trajectory, making future lead roles harder to secure. Behind the scenes, co-star relationships and production dynamics tell an even uglier story. Gal Gadot, who played the evil queen, refrained from publicly throwing Zegler under the bus, but she also offered little support when directly questioned about the film's failure. Gadot hinted at internal disorganization and a lack of creative teamwork on set, describing the process as exhausting and marked by misalignments at the corporate level. Her carefully measured comments, particularly her refusal to elaborate on her experience with Zegler until she felt comfortable, sent the rumor mill into overdrive, with fans and media outlets speculating about serious behind-the-scenes conflicts. Gadot's veiled critique was seen by many as confirmation that the production environment had been toxic, further damaging the film's already crumbling reputation. This public display of fractured relationships between lead cast members only deepened the perception that Snow White was doomed from within long before it ever reached audiences. Fueling the narrative of disarray, Andrew Burnap, another co-star in the film, added to the controversy by not attending the film's premiere at all, an absence that raised eyebrows across the entertainment industry. Burnap's decision to avoid press events altogether came after Zegler herself made public comments that his scenes could potentially be cut from the final edit, remarks that many interpreted as disrespectful and unprofessional. Imagine dedicating months of work to a high-profile Disney film only to have your own lead co-star dismissively suggest that your role might not make it to the big screen. Insiders say this tension boiled over into the press circuit, with Burnap opting out of any promotional involvement as a quiet protest against the treatment he received during production. His absence spoke volumes, confirming to many that the drama behind the scenes was just as damaging as the backlash playing out publicly. Disney's troubles with Snow White didn't stop at audience reception or cast disputes. The fallout has begun to impact the company's future slate of projects. Most notably, the highly anticipated live-action adaptation of Tangled was abruptly canceled with no formal announcement or explanation from the studio. Early industry leaks had suggested that Rachel Zegler was among the top choices to lead the Tangled reboot, playing the role of Rapunzel. However, after the colossal failure of Snow White, Disney executives reportedly grew wary of attaching her name to another flagship project. The cancellation of Tangled appears to be a direct consequence of the company's newfound reluctance to double down on what audiences have so thoroughly rejected. Pulling the plug on a project of that scale without warning signals a level of fear within Disney's leadership about risking further damage to the brand's reputation. Perhaps the most humiliating moment in this saga came when Zegler, attempting to show confidence in the film despite its poor reception, attended one of the screenings herself, flowers in hand, posing for photos as if celebrating a major success. But footage from that screening told a starkly different story. A near-empty theater, with just a scattering of attendees spread across the room. Intended as a moment of triumph, the event quickly spiraled into meme territory online, with users sarcastically dubbing the clip Snow White and the 7 empty seats. Some social media posts went as far as comparing Zegler's solo screening appearance to bringing flowers to a funeral. This visual embodiment of the film's failure struck a chord with audiences worldwide, cementing its status as one of the most embarrassing box office flops in Disney's history. The final nail in the coffin came with the official box office numbers, which confirmed that Snow White couldn't even break the $100 million mark domestically, a catastrophic shortfall for a film of its scale. International figures did little to offset the damage, and the film quickly earned one of the lowest IMDb scores ever seen for a Disney production. Review aggregators reflected a tidal wave of negative feedback from both critics and general audiences, with widespread condemnation of the film's storytelling choices, character portrayals, and underlying political messaging. Meanwhile, competitor films like Minecraft, which faced its own share of skepticism for being too childish, managed to demolish Snow White at the box office with ease, proving that audiences still crave simple, fan-centered entertainment free from divisive controversy. Now, as the dust continues to settle, Rachel Zegler's future in Hollywood remains uncertain. Industry whispers suggest that several studios have begun quietly distancing themselves from the actress, reconsidering previously discussed projects, or pulling her from consideration altogether. Disney, once positioned as her strongest backer, appears to have lost faith after the Snow White disaster, choosing not to involve her in upcoming reboots or large-scale productions. As insiders speculate about the full extent of the career damage, one question remains on everyone's mind. Can Zegler bounce back from this debacle, or has Snow White effectively ended her rise to stardom before it truly began? All eyes are now on how she and the studio will navigate the fallout from one of the most talked about flops in recent Hollywood memory.